Watch this closely. A referee jogs over to a challenge, points at an Argentina player, and shows him a yellow card. The call is made. The stadium moves on. 30 seconds later, that same referee sends off a Switzerland player instead. A red card that did not exist 30 seconds earlier. And here's the strange part. Nothing new happened. Nobody touched the ball. There was no second foul, no second fall, no new play. The action was frozen. Everyone in that stadium had already seen it. So, how does a red card appear out of nowhere, from a moment that was already over? That question is the one to make this video, because the replay did not change what happened on that pitch. Not one frame of it. It changed what everyone believed had happened. And once you see how that works, you're going to start noticing your own brain doing the exact same thing. In arguments, in first impressions, in every moment you were sure of something a little too fast. Here's what your brain does all day, without asking you first. You decide what someone meant in the first 2 seconds. You decide what kind of person they are before they finish their first sentence. If you play any sport, you decide whether you were fouled before you've even hit the ground. Your brain does not want a maybe, it wants a verdict. Fouled or not fouled, guilty or innocent, on or off. It treats belief like a light switch, one position or the other, nothing in between. And for most of human history, that was exactly right. When something moved in the grass, you couldn't afford to stand there calmly weighing the odds that it was a lion. One glance, one decision, run. The people who asked for more evidence got eaten. Fast certainty kept you alive. But that same switch has a nasty habit. Once it flips, it stays flipped. And every new thing you learn afterward gets quietly bent to fit the position it's already in. Quick note, so nobody yells at me in the comments. We only call this red card decisive because Argentina went on to win. That's a different trap for a different day. What I care about here is deeper. It's not about the result. It's about how belief itself works. So let me hand you a different picture. A belief was never really meant to be a switch. It was meant to be a dial. Not on or off. A number, how likely something is, from 0 to certain. And that dial is supposed to move. Strong new evidence turns it a long way. Weak evidence nudges it a little. That's the whole idea. A belief is a setting, and the setting responds to what you learn. Now go back to the referee. His first call was a dial reading. In real time, from one angle, at full speed, he saw a challenge, and his internal dial landed on probably a foul by the Argentina player. That isn't stupid. That's a reasonable reading with the information he had, which was one look in about 1 second. Then the replay arrived. And the replay didn't hand him a new event. It handed him more evidence about the same frozen one. More angles, slow motion, a closer look at how much contact there actually was, and how the fall actually happened. More evidence is supposed to move the dial. So it moved. There's a piece of math for this. It's about 250 years old, and it quietly ran this entire match, even though almost nobody in that stadium could have named it. It works like this. You start with a belief before the new evidence. Call that your prior. Then evidence comes in, and you update to a new belief after the evidence. Call that your posterior. That's it. Prior, evidence, posterior. A starting guess, new information, a revised guess. The name for it is Bayes' rule, and you don't need the formula, you just need the shape. Hold your beliefs as probabilities and move them when the evidence is strong. Watch it run on the red card. The prior was the Argentina player fouled him. Reasonable from one angle. Then the evidence came in from many angles, slowed right down. The contact looked minimal. The fall looked bigger than the contact could explain. So the dial swung. The new belief was simulation is now more likely than a foul. And here's the part I really want you to hold on to, because it's where most people get this wrong. That new belief is still a probability. It is not proof. The referee did not suddenly know for a fact that the Switzerland player dived. He concluded it had become more likely than the alternative. That's what updating is. You're not flipping to a new certainty. You're moving the dial to a new number. The event never changed. Nobody learned what happened for sure. The estimate of what most likely happened is the only thing that moved. And that, by the way, is exactly what modern artificial intelligence does too. A vision system watching that tackle doesn't invent a new fact. It gathers more evidence about a fact that already existed. Many cameras instead of one. Frame by frame instead of a blink. More views, more confidence, sometimes a different call. Same reality underneath. VAR was doing a clumsy, human version of the same move. Now here's the twist that makes this a psychology story and not just a football one. 60,000 people saw that same replay. Most of them did not budge. The referee changed his mind. The crowd, mostly, did not. And reversing your own call, out loud, in front of the entire world, is the single hardest version of changing your mind there is. He did the rare thing. They did the normal thing. So why is it so normal to freeze? Because the first call was an anchor. This is a real, well-studied bug in how we think. The first piece of information you get grabs your judgment and drags everything after it toward itself. The first call felt true, not because it was right, but because it came first. And once it landed, every replay angle got measured against it instead of judged fresh. Then a second reflex stacks on top. Once you believe the Argentina player fouled, the replay details that fit that story jump out at you, and the ones that don't feel like excuses. Psychologists call that confirmation bias, and its stubborn cousin, belief perseverance. You keep the belief even after the ground it was standing on has been pulled away. The machine moved the dial. Your brain would have superglued the switch. Step back from this one call for a second, because there's a bigger dial hiding behind the whole system. VAR is a detector, and every detector, human or machine, has one setting it can't escape. How sensitive do you make it? Turn it up, and you catch more dives. But you also overturn more borderline calls and stop the game every few minutes. Turn it down and the game flows, but you miss more of the real ones. Engineers even have names for the two mistakes: catching things that were never there and missing things that were. You cannot push both to zero at once. Force one down and the other creeps up. That's not a football problem. That's the exact same dial behind a cancer screening choosing between a false alarm and a missed tumor, behind a spam filter, behind fraud detection, behind a self-driving car deciding whether that shape is a pedestrian. Every one of them is quietly choosing which kind of mistake it can live with. So most VAR arguments aren't really about one tackle. They're about where we set that dial. And there is no setting that never gets anything wrong. I want to be honest about what happened next, because this part is easy to oversell. The updated belief became a red card. The red card became 10 men. 10 men reshaped the tactics, the space, the running, the tiredness. All of that is real. But Switzerland did not collapse. They defended with 10 men for something like 48 minutes. They forced saves. They were only a few minutes from penalties, where they'd already knocked out Colombia the round before. The match stayed level until the 112th minute, when one Argentina player curled a shot from distance that had no business going in. So the replay didn't decide the result. It moved the probabilities. It changed which game was being played. Argentina still had to go out and win it. The reversal was a turn dial, not a final whistle. Here's where this stops being about a match. Think about the last argument you couldn't let go of. You almost certainly decided, in the first couple of seconds, what the other person really meant. And after that, the fight wasn't actually about the facts anymore. It was about defending your first read. New evidence showed up all night. The dial never moved. That's the switch talking. And notice the quiet trade your brain is making. A belief costs you almost nothing to form. One glance, 1 second. But it costs you an enormous amount to give up. That asymmetry is the whole problem. Cheap to build, expensive to surrender. So we cling. We would rather stay consistent than be right. The skill here is not never being wrong at first glance. You'll be wrong at first glance constantly. Everyone is. The referee was. The skill is holding that first read as a probability instead of a verdict, so new evidence can still reach us. So how did a red card appear out of a moment that was already finished? It didn't come from the pitch. The pitch never changed. It came from the evidence, arriving late about a fact that was already fixed. And it landed on a referee who did the rarest thing in that entire stadium. He treated his belief like a dial, and he turned it. The replay didn't change what happened. It changed what everyone believed had happened. And the hardest, most valuable thing a mind can ever do is let new evidence do exactly that. So next time you feel that first certainty snap into place, hard and fast and sure, don't ask whether you're right. Ask what it would take to move the dial, and then go looking for it.